Welcome, everybody, to a deep dive. It's The Moses Code by James F. Twyman. Have you heard of this one?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's an interesting one.
It is, and we're going to go really deep, like deep dive into this book that claims to unlock a secret code for manifesting desires, and it's hidden within the story of Moses.
What I find so fascinating is how Twyman takes this ancient wisdom, these stories that have been around for millennia, and connects it with like our modern desires for a more fulfilling life.
Right, and it's something that we all want, right?
Yeah.
We all want this more fulfilling life, and it doesn't waste any time. It just comes right out and says that there's this hidden power within the story of Moses and the burning bush, and this power can manifest your desires. Does it make you, like, raise an eyebrow a little
Well,
bit?
for sure. It's a bold claim to make.
Yeah.
But what I appreciate is that it doesn't just present it as like this fluffy feel-good concept. It's like, no, the Moses Code is a real force for change. It's a tool to reshape your reality by tapping into something much bigger than yourself.
So it's like the law of attraction went to divinity school.
That's a great way to put it.
What is it about the Moses Code that makes its approach to manifesting stand out to you?
Well, you mentioned the law of attraction, and it's very much in that realm, but it dives deeper than just attracting material possessions, right?
Okay.
Although that's part of it.
Okay.
Twyman really argues that the Moses Code, it speaks to these deep desires of the soul. Like, what are you really longing for?
So it's about figuring out what we really want, not just the fancy car or the bigger house.
Precisely.
Okay.
He uses this great analogy in the book about feeding the ego's hunger versus the soul's longing.
Ooh. Which one are you feeding right now?
Yeah.
In your own life?
That's a really powerful question. I like that because it's so easy to get caught up in, temporary gratification or, fleeting pleasures. So this book challenges us to look a little deeper and discover what truly brings that lasting fulfillment that we're all looking for.
Yeah, and that's really the heart of it.
And speaking of deeper meaning, Twyman really zeroes in on this phrase that God reveals to Moses, I am that I am, from the burning bush.
Right. This phrase is key. And,
Yeah.
Historically, this marked a huge shift because back then, it was very polytheistic, a lot of different gods that people worshipped.
Right.
And then this idea of one God comes in, and it's like there's only one ultimate power, one source.
And that power is I am.
Yes.
Yeah,
And by tapping into the power of I am in alignment with our desires.
We align ourselves with the creative force of the universe.
Whoa.
So it's not just about wishing for things or, hoping for things. It's about embodying the energy of already having them.
Interesting.
It's about stepping into that reality now.
So instead of saying, I want to be financially abundant, the Moses Code would say, I am that abundance, even if my bank account doesn't show it yet.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift in perspective because you're claiming your inherent worthiness to receive those desires.
That's powerful.
And here's the thing. Sometimes what we think will make us happy, if we really check in with ourselves, it might not actually be in line with our soul's true purpose. So the Moses Code encourages us to really question our desires. Are they coming from our ego or are they coming from our soul?
Right, because the ego can be a little bit of a trickster sometimes. So we're talking about manifesting on like a whole new level here. But how do we actually put this Moses Code into action? Are there like practical steps that we can take?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, he gives us some really concrete techniques for aligning with this divine power. He calls them forms of the Moses Code.
Forms, okay.
Yeah, almost like, steps in a recipe guiding you towards manifesting your desires.
I love a good recipe for success.
Yeah.
So what is this first form all about?
So the first form involves this specific breathing technique, kind of like meditation in a way. And you combine that with repeating the phrase, I am that I am, while focusing on a particular goal that you have.
Okay, so I can see myself, breathing in, breathing out, I am that I am. It does sound very meditative what's happening on like an energetic level when we're doing this.
Well, imagine this, right? You're breathing deeply. You're repeating, I am that abundance, for example.
Okay.
You're aligning your entire being, like your mind, your body, your spirit, with that reality.
Right.
So it's a powerful way to shift your internal state to match the reality that you want to create.
It's so true because have you ever noticed like in your own life when you're focused on lack or you're really, thinking negative thoughts, it's like you almost attract more of that same energy.
It's like the universe is mirroring back
Yeah.
your dominant vibration.
Yes, exactly. And what we're talking about here is shifting that vibration to
Yeah.
one of already having what you desire, even if it's not tangible yet, right?
Yeah, you're embodying the energy of
Mhm.
already being wealthy or healthy or whatever it is that you're wanting to call in.
And that can be hard, right? Because if you're looking at your bank account and it's, not where you want it to be,
Right.
it can be hard to embody that. But we're talking about, going beyond the physical.
Absolutely. And what's interesting here is that Twyman emphasizes that the Moses Code is not just about getting what WE want,
Okay.
it's also about giving.
Oh, I like that. There's a nice symmetry to that.
There
So
is.
tell me more about the giving aspect of this.
Yeah, so the second form of the Moses Code kind of flips the script on this a little bit.
Okay.
And it involves reversing the breathing technique that we talked about.
Oh,
And instead of focusing on, like, I am that abundance, you embody the feeling of generosity, of having so much abundance that you can freely share it with others.
that's a powerful shift.
It is.
Because instead of grasping for what we lack,
Mm.
we're tapping into the energy of already having it and
Yes.
having so much of it that we can just, give it away freely.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's like you become a fountain of abundance
Yes.
rather than trying to collect little droplets in a cup.
I love that analogy.
And Twyman connects this to the nature of God, right? He says God, as the source of all, constantly gives.
Right.
So by embodying that giving energy, we align ourselves with that divine flow.
It reminds me of that saying, the more you give, the more you receive.
Exactly. And he shares personal stories in the book, too, about how, giving unexpectedly led to receiving even more in return.
Right. It's like that energetic exchange.
Exactly. And it's not about manipulating the universe. It's not about like, oh, if I give something, then I'm going to get something back. It's about aligning yourself with this higher principle, this
Yeah.
divine flow of giving and receiving.
So recognizing that we are inherently connected to that source
Yes.
of abundance, both within and, all around us.
Exactly.
Now, the book doesn't shy away from the fact that this can be challenging, right? Because we all have that inner voice of doubt, that fear-based part of ourselves that can kind of hold us back.
Oh, absolutely. He calls that the shadow self,
Okay.
the shadow. And he contrasts that with the body and the light.
Okay, let's unpack that a little bit.
Yeah.
What do those three elements represent?
So think of the shadow as the ego, that part of us that's driven by fear, scarcity, the need for external validation. It's always seeking something outside of itself to feel complete.
Right, always chasing something.
Yes, and then you have the body, which represents the soul,
Okay.
our true essence, which is already whole and connected to the divine.
Okay.
It recognizes its inherent worthiness.
And then the light represents God, the source of all.
Precisely. And Twyman suggests that the Moses Code is about aligning with that light. It's about shifting our identification from the shadow to the body and ultimately recognizing our oneness with the light itself.
Wow. So we're not just talking about like manifesting material desires here, but like a deeper spiritual transformation, a journey of self-discovery. And in that journey, Twyman talks about aligning with divine will. This idea that, true manifestation comes from surrendering to a higher power,
Yeah, that's a really important point.
even if it means letting go of our own plans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the most surprising and fulfilling results come when we let go of that control and surrender to that higher purpose that's meant for us.
And he uses the example of Moses himself in the book, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Who at first resisted God's call.
Right.
And ended up, missing out on some pretty incredible miracles.
Exactly. He wasn't really on board with the plan at first. And it wasn't until he fully surrendered to that higher purpose that he was able to do those incredible things like part the Red Sea and lead his people to freedom. That surrender, that trust in a higher power is essential to the Moses Code.
Yeah, it reminds me of the saying, let go and let God.
Hmm.
It's about trusting that there's a divine timing to
Right.
things,
Absolutely.
a plan that's bigger than our own limited perspective.
Beautiful way to put it.
Would you say that's an accurate way of putting it?
Absolutely. It's
Wow.
about aligning with that divine timing, trusting that everything unfolds according to a divine plan instead of trying to force things to happen. We align with that higher flow, that divine order, and trust that when we're in harmony with it, our desires manifest effortlessly. It's a really beautiful concept when you think about it.
It is this surrender to the wisdom of the universe, this recognition that we're a part of something so much bigger than ourselves. And that brings us to what Twyman calls the final step, the Moses Code. He calls it the step God takes for you. What an intriguing way to put it. What does he mean by that?
It's essentially about complete surrender to divine grace, letting go of that striving, a merging of the individual will with the divine will. So we've done our part. We've aligned with our desires. We've embraced that giving energy. And now it's about trusting that the universe has our back.
It's like saying, okay, universe, I trust you to handle the details. I'm simply a vessel for this expression to happen through
Exactly.
such a profound concept.
It is. And in that trust, we find incredible peace and freedom. Because we're no longer trying to control everything, we're allowing things to unfold as they're meant to. And Twyman suggests that this final step leads to the dissolving of the ego, emerging with the divine. So there's no longer a sense of like me versus God. There's just this unified experience of oneness.
Wow, that's a powerful image. It's like, the individual drop of water realizing it was always a part of the ocean.
Beautiful.
So to kind of bring it all together, would you say that the Moses Code is about recognizing our inherent worthiness, aligning with our desires through the power of I am, embracing that giving energy, and ultimately surrendering to that divine will,
Yeah.
trusting that the universe has our back?
You got it. That's a beautiful summary. It's about shifting from a place of lack and striving to a place of abundance and surrender.
This has been incredible. It really has. It's made me rethink my approach to manifesting, to spirituality, to my relationship with the universe. But one question kind of lingers for me, and I'll pose this to you listening as well. If the Moses Code hinges on embodying God's qualities, what quality resonates with you most deeply, and how can you begin expressing it in your life today? Something to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive into the Moses Code. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep aligning with that wisdom within and all around you.